high school is now when I definitely knew that I was a lesbian.
Yeah. No, when she's used to be, so when you are together, her focus is on me. She gravitates to mom completely.
Kabisa.
I can tell. She's very outspoken.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mama Gigi. My name is Josephine Wandia. I'm this young girl's mom. I've been a marketing person almost all my working life. I do sales and marketing a lot. Recently, after the pandemic, I'm no longer actively marketing for anybody in employment, but I sell supplements and I do marketing for my own creations. This is part of my creations. I do art and crafts. And I'm an activist. I do lobbying for LGBTIQ rights, lobbying for equality and provision of equal services to LGBTIQ persons as well as the rest of us. Besides that, I'm a happy mother of 3 children, an elder daughter, then Gigi, and then her brother. And I'm glad to be here.
Hi, I am Gigi, daughter of Miss over here. I am a feminist, activist, human rights defender. I am currently working with Jinsiangu as the programs officer. I am also on the board of a number of LBQ organizations, that's lesbian, bisexual, and queer women organizations. I do a lot of capacity strengthening, I do a lot of advocacy, whether it is national, regional, international. But basically, I prefer to just stick with activist for this specific conversation. And I'm glad to be here.
What I admire about Gigi, my wish as a parent is to have a daughter who is able to take care of herself, who is able to help me in my older age. And that's what I've always wanted since she was young. And I can say I'm thoroughly fulfilled. My daughter, because of financial challenges, I brought her up as a single parent. She's had to go through a lot, but I can say I'm very happy now because she's working. That's what every parent wishes, and I'm very grateful for that. As a mother of a daughter, I am very, very, very proud of her. I can say that she's a pillar that I lean on, and I'm a pillar that she leans on. We cope together very well. It's something, I come from a generation of strong women and women who held one another up. My grandmother and my mother were very close and they held one another up. In the same way, me and my mother were very close and we held one another up. And I can say the tradition has carried on perfectly because me and Gigi, we are not only very close, but we hold one another up through thick and thin, literally.
So the thing I admire most about my mom is how she has been able to raise me to become the feminist that I am today. She has always instringed within me that you have to always believe in yourself. You have to always give the best of yourself in whatever you're doing. There's something that she always used to say when we were growing up. And with everything that you do it like as if Jesus is coming to inspect it. So, and that has been something that I have always held on to, if one as a woman, as a black woman. And for me, that is something that I have learned, as she's just mentioned, from a long line of strong, independent, bloody powerful women that I come from, a line that I come from, and that is something that I admire the most about my mom, just giving me that strength to be the best that I am as a woman in this day and age. In your days, the heydays, was there a space for conversation, for people to just talk about who they are attracted to figure out who they're attracted to, why they're attracted to these people. And for you, how was that journey like for you to just know that this is the kind of people I like, and this is sort of who I am as my sexual orientation, as your own sexual orientation? Maskuza high school, hebu niambie.
First of all, correction, it was not in high school. It was like everybody else. As you were getting into teenagehood, in primary, we started, of course, I started realizing my sexuality in primary school because I was a big girl and I matured early. So around standard 6, of course, you're getting into puberty. And so me and my best friend, she's now deceased. We were reading novels, we were watching TV, we knew about boys. We were thoroughly not allowed to be near boys. So we knew there was kissing. That was the most exciting sexual thing that could happen. So we decided with one another, let's kiss, see what is kissing. Then we were like, yuck, what's this? Then that was now, you know, teenagers, early teens, you know, you experiment. But besides that, of course, there were boys who were interested in us. We were interested in some boys. You know, you'd look at some high school boys and you're just, they can't even talk to you. You're not in any space together. But from an early age, of course, I knew I was interested in boys. And I didn't get into that boyfriend girlfriend issue until after Form 6. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. There was no discussion about such stuff at home. It was just common knowledge. You're going to get married at one point. If you're interested in boys, wait until you finish school. So even if you had your sexuality urges, you let them lie low. Those who are considered bad girls, as you can say, are those who got pregnant after Form 4 before then. I can say, for me, I did not have the excitement of sexuality. Although I knew I was attracted to boys, I was so intent into my education. And after that, because there were challenges of finances with my mom, and the family, my siblings were growing. So after school, I was also so much into getting a job and working. The idea of boys or men was kind of at the back of my mind. So although I knew I was attracted, until I think I started dating after I started working, maybe when I was 20.
Wow.
Yeah, it's when I had my first boyfriend.
I actually thought back then is when people would experiment more.
No. The system was different because, first of all, getting jobs was not so difficult. Life challenges, financial, were not as difficult as now. I had option to stay with mom, to stay with aunties. I did not have a big pressure to move out of home. And luckily, because I got a job immediately after school, I was able to live. So I didn't have any push like you people have right now to maybe get somebody to, because I need financial support. So unless you had that and you had you could hold your sexual inhibitions a lot. And so although I was attracted to men, I had nothing pushing me to be, and I had a strong family support. So I really, although I knew I was attracted to men, I waited and held on until I had my first boyfriend in later years. But it was not something we sat down to discuss.
Wow, that is such a big contrast from my story. Well, times have changed, of course. Growing up, sana when we were in coma is when I just started realizing a few things. One, I had a crush on basically the people I used to play kati with, the people I used to play bladder with. I won't even mention their names, but you know them, kina majirani, who we were all the same age, and then we used to play shake hapo nyuma. So it started getting to a point where it was even difficult for me to hang out with girls because I felt like, okay, so this is not right, the way I feel around girls. So that's why I started hanging out mostly with boys, and that went on all the way to even when I finished secondary school. But in Uko, back then in Koma, it was just, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what the name is. I just knew I feel very different around girls, but I didn't even used to think about it sana. So when in Kampala, when we were in Uganda, in Nakasero, my best friend.
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Oh, I think we even have those 2 letters at home and the 2 cards.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that is a person that for all those years in Nakasero, I was just head over heels over this person. I used to like being around this person. I used to like writing letters to this person. We had a very deep friendship. And one thing that I like is that you never sort of made me feel guilty about it when I wanted to go to sleep at her place or them come to sleep at our place, or if
Anyway,
we're
we
going
were
to
family
Gaba
friends
Beach.
also. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah. So it helped.
yes. When
Yeah.
we're going to the beach, you can they even come, her and her 2 little twin sisters, and we'd have a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
So in Nakasero class 7, it was actually the PLE living. PLE is like KCPE. So it was that party. So
Yes,
that is
I
when I
remember.
actually came out to her, and I told her that the way I feel for her is not just best friendship, because I think I feel I have some feelings for her. Well, mom, turn down now. That turn down was severe. But in high school is now when everything blew up. That is now when I was very certain, I was very sure, and now it was a journey of me trying to accept what I am, because that is something that was not sitting well with me. Ningeshikwa nipatikane a number of times, and then I'd call, of course, my 2 aunties to come bail me out. Never tell mom. But in high school is when things really, really blew up. And also that is the time that was almost most dark for me, because I was like, okay, I'm confused. At home, I'm being told I must have a boyfriend. In school, I have these feelings for these girls. When I'm at home, I have to pretend to be something. It was just a lot of internal discrimination that I had within myself. Like in high school is now when I definitely knew that I was a lesbian. So, mom, before the epic coming out that happened, did you ever think that I was different? Did you ever just have an assumption, have an intuition that I was different?
No, never. Of course, that was your late teens. So for me, my biggest worry was our relationship. Because of course, after all we had gone through, you not living home for a while. So my biggest worry was always how, at that point, was how am I going to get my daughter back? What am I failing? Is it because of the problems, the financial challenges we've had? It's going to affect her. And my biggest desire was, how am I going to get her back to me in the house, and having a mother-daughter relationship, because I had seen friends who had bad relationships with their parents, with their mothers specifically. And I had seen how it affected them in later years. And besides that, I had seen what my relationship with my mom had been like. So I knew it was crucial, despite the challenges we had had in the past few years, that at this time, my biggest worry was, Gigi is not with us completely, and I must bring her home to be fine with me, because she's getting into an early adulthood stage, and I must be close to her because it will make all the difference. I didn't think anything beyond that. I mean, my fear was just, I'm a mother. This is my daughter. This is the time when I need to shape her, to mold her. They've been teen differences, which is very normal for many people. And I was talking to my aunties, I was talking to grandma, and they were all telling me, that's girls, you know, that age, that's the way it is. And so me, as a single parent, of course, and this being my elder daughter, your sister was doing fine. So I was like, I must get Gigi back. I might have gone wrong, she might have gone wrong, but the little differences we've had in her late teenage years, I must correct them quickly by bringing her into my fold. So I didn't think anything beyond that. Yeah, I was just a mother who was concerned that her daughter at this crucial stage should be near her. Yeah.
Wow, I actually never knew that.
Yeah.
Because for me, imagine at that point, it was just all about running away to, I don't even know where, just within myself, so that I didn't even understand what I was doing. For me, it was just, I don't know how to confront a number of things that I'm dealing with. I don't know if being close to mom is going to make her know and make her even shun me even more, because I started realizing, of course, now I'm a young adult, my interests are changing. Like our relationship was we were really apart from each other, not even just physically, even just that mother-daughter gap was very wide between us. At that, oh my God, I didn't know that, mom.
Yeah. No, one thing is that I was, of course, you remember there were other forces that were playing into this deliberately.
Yes.
In retrospect, when I think about it. But for me, I did, you know, when I push on to my children to do something for my children, you know, I become a fighter. So at that point, I knew what was happening, and I devoted my full time. That's why I did everything possible to bring you back, because I did not want that crucial stage of you becoming a woman to bypass when you're not near me. I knew how important it was. Yeah. So, if you realize this earlier, because Coma Days, that was before, before I came back to Uganda and we started living together. Did you fear for the others knowing, Len and Levi?
Oh, definitely.
Or did you fear that I would react?
Actually, your reaction was what was scariest the most, not even so much Len and Levi, because I knew Len and Levi would basically just follow your reaction. So that one is not okay. And hey, mom, you are strict. So I was also very afraid of that one. I felt like I would be a huge shame to you, considering I'm your firstborn, I'm the girl child, I'm supposed to be the person who is setting an example for Leonard and Levi, and here I am epically failing at that, and huku nje loving women. So it was just, I was in total fear. And then the other thing is, I was also battling with some of the very crucial building blocks that you had instilled in me. For example, faith, religion, spirituality. I was battling a lot with those, and I'm thinking, I am definitely going to be chased away from home. First of all, if grandma, it was you and grandma, you were the two biggest fears for me. And I was so afraid of even just letting anyone have a whiff of what I was and who I was. So in retrospect, that just made me withdraw within myself and hide within myself. And it came out, it was projected as rebellion, and a lot of it. So for me, that fear was very clear, was very, very tangible, especially thinking about the financial strife we're going through at that particular point. And I'm like, how can I be so selfish to be thinking about who I am and what I am, and not thinking about what I can do to help at home at this particular point.
Just to follow.
Once I knew about your sexuality, actually what happened was that you are living close by with okay, we won't mention names, and I was so happy. I already felt I had taken a big step, had been taken for me by the universe, that you are living close to us. So God always, for me, I always believe that God works. The universe works for me through prayer. So I think either you gave your phone to Len or you are exchanging SMSs, and because I've always looked at everybody's phone without permission, I took the phone and was going through it. God knows for what reason. Mothers don't need to explain. But I saw a message that made me read twice because I was like, what's this? Are they talking about rabbits? What's this? And it just passed my mind and I was like, rubbish. So I asked in passing, what was that message about? And I saw a change of face. So I said, these kids are up to something. And I used to go to school. I used to go to work, and then Len would be going to school, rest his soul. So it's so funny. We came out of the house, we were going to the stage, and because I've always read a lot, I'm always in touch with what's happening internationally, it suddenly hit me. It wasn't about rabbits. And you know, I don't hold things back. So immediately I just stopped and looked at Len and asked him, that message, was it about this? Then he was like, Mom, now we are going to school. And I just, right there, I just blew it. So we went to school and work on a bad note. And when I came home, I hit the roof.
Yes.
That's how I learned. And your brother, the one thing I loved is that all of you are so tight. So he
I had
just
actually come out to him.
this woman, there's no battling with her. It's just like, Mom, now you just have to understand the way things are. And I was blowing my top. What is it? Are you also like this? You foolish kids, you had to make me mad. I was so angry because I had so many questions. First of all, I had a lot of fears because whenever something would happen, either I'm called to school because of one of you or something, my first thought was always, it was never about blaming you people. That's why I supported you all the time. I'd be thinking, oh God, is this what being a single mom has done to affect my children? I'd always have the blame on me. So at this time I was like, oh Jesus, is this what it has come to because of not having a father, because of me not being with their father, because of not having a man in my life? And the blame was on me. I didn't even question you at all. I was just thinking, I am failing. God, what are you doing to me? Why is this happening to me, not even to you? So at that point, all I had was fear and questions and self-doubt. Because in my mind, a parent is responsible for everything their child does, whether young or older. So I was thinking, this is a situation that is being brought about because I have brought up these children thinking that I am the perfect parent, but this is showing a failure in me. So at that point, it was just confusion in my mind and a lot of regret and worry at that point. Of course, that all changed later. But at that point, that's what it was. I received it with a lot of shock, with a lot of bewilderment, questions at God, and almost regret that I might have done the wrong thing, although I always believed that I was bringing up my children in the right way.
You did a good job, by the way. A very fucking amazing job with us.
Thank you.
120%, Mom. Never ever second guess yourself. In fact, for me, I take that as something so powerful. I even boast the fact that we turned out so perfectly after being raised by a single mom, and what society usually says about women who choose to raise their children without a man. Mom, failure should never be in your vocabulary when it comes to parenting. And I am very proud, very, very proud as your child and as a woman that you have raised. Absolutely. So what are your biggest fears when it comes to my lifestyle?
It's been a long journey. I thank God. And I'm visibly aware of what's out there, locally here in Kenya and internationally. Saying I'm open-minded doesn't make everything okay by me and by the world's standards. We live in a very homophobic country. The fact that I'm fine and that a few of the people around us are accepting doesn't necessarily mean that we are in an okay society. Even among the people we find, and I call accepting among us, there are still, you can't look into somebody's heart. You can only see how they react when you're together, but behind closed doors and when you're away, people are different. My biggest fear is just security. For all of us, especially for you. So when it comes to security issues, my biggest concern is that we're in public spaces, online, in different forums. And as much as I can say, I have confidence in that we try very much to go into safe spaces. We are surrounded by people who are accepting. That still doesn't wipe out my fears that a lot of people, what you see is not necessarily exactly who they are or what they are. But I thank God, first of all, for the support in the family. First of all, for Made, my grandmother, and for the immediate family, my siblings, who are so accepting. And then for the group of friends and relatives surrounding us who've been so much support. But this is a very homophobic society. And when I look at persons who've spearheaded activism, like Njoya, and I look at the kind of rhetoric they get, it's a harsh reality of what activism for a good cause can do. I know you're doing a lot in support of many people, not just LGBTIQ persons, but also other members of the general public. That's not highlighted most times because a lot of criticism, when it comes, it's like just looking at a myopic view of what the good works you're doing. But more often than not, I am very thankful that where your work and your sexuality has gotten you to, the comfort right now is that we are able to keep away from people that have dissenting views about your lifestyle, about your sexuality, about my work in activism. But I always have this constant worry that what more can we do to stay safe? But besides that, I must also say that when you're working for a good cause, sometimes the lesser thought is just about security, because goodness thrives, and goodness comes and wipes away a lot of the evil that is bent on destroying acts that aim to improve humanity. So in as much as I have a lot of fears for myself and for you, I'm like, somebody must take the risk. And if it's me, and if it's you, so be it. Because there are many people there who don't have voices, who cannot stand up and say, I'm hurting because I'm being judged because of who I am. And if we are the ones who can talk for them, and it's going to put us at the forefront of the risk factor, then yep, so be it. But for me, the need and the importance of speaking out to those who don't have a voice to speak by far supersedes what kind of risk I'm putting myself or you're putting yourself at, and what kind of discomfort we might get in the process. So I put everything to God in prayer. And I know when I know I'm doing good, everything else that comes, that's fate. But as long as I know I'm doing this with a clean heart and with love in my heart and with understanding for the people who are being condemned so much for being who they are, which has been made into a crime by human design, not by, which is not a godly intention that they, or you can't say that it's a sin in the eyes of God. It's a sin created by humans. So yeah, human beings have a lot of evil going on, and they, at different times of history, they have picked a certain group of people to portray as sinners and as evil. At one time, it was people who are deemed to be to be unholy, and unholy could mean anything. The food you ate, the clothes you wore, where you came from. At another time, it was being black.
Exactly. Still
Was
is.
yes, it still is in some parts. At another time, it was not being a Christian, despite the fact that people had their own religions. At another time, it was
Women wearing trousers.
different things. So at one point in history, people sat down, and people, meaning the people who had power of authority of writing what was correct and what was not, somebody sat down and said, I think let's change now from saying that pedophiles or people who do this kind of thing to their body are bad. Let's say that people who are homosexuals are bad, and they put it down in a book that guides our social thinking, which is called the Bible, and made homosexuality a sin. So from that perspective, when I look at it, it's a risk to our security, but it's a risk that I'm willing for us to take for the sake of the many.
Me, basically, what scares me most about my own identity is, one, fear for my own family, because I feel like society will oftenly target them as a way to continue to oppress me, to continue to discriminate me. They will use my family as a tool of trying to get to me. That is something that I'm always constantly afraid of. My own security, one, as a woman, two, as a woman who loves other women and other genders and other things. So for me, the security factor is always at its height. One, it's because of how I express. I don't also express as a normal, good woman should, which always attracts attention to me, which always attracts profiling to me, sometimes denied opportunities for certain things because of judgment by somebody just looking at me and just concluding in their heads who I am and what I do and that's just it. Those doors are closed. The other thing is in my own personal relationships, with intimate relationships, where I'm actively hated by the families of the people who I am with, for example, because they think I'm a terrible influence to their kin, to their children, to their kin, basically. So for me, those are the three top things that I can say make me fear the most. And you and Levi are at the priority of it. Your security, your safety, how people treat you in public, because most of the time you will find that allies of LGBTIQ persons more often face the same prejudice that LGBTIQ persons are facing, for virtue of them supporting either their children, either their family, whether they are friends. They're always targeted with the same hate that is targeted towards LGBTIQ people. And that for me is my biggest fear. So ma'am, since my coming out, have your hopes changed, like from what you were hoping for me before coming out, for me to become, for me to aspire to be, for me to get to? Has that changed after my coming out?
In essence, it has. Not in terms of totally changing, but the way a parent's aspirations for her child would change with times. At the point at which you came out, my desire was for you to be in college, which that went the way it was. You went, and then we were unable to continue with the fees. Then after that, I wanted you to get a job. And remember, we had many, at that point, you know, I wanted you to portray properly, to be able to get a job, because I knew what was wanted in the market. Of course, since I'm in marketing, I knew that. And as time progressed, I knew the challenges you are having about not finishing school and getting into a job. So my ardent desire was for you to get a good placed place of employment, despite the challenges of not continuing with education. And as time went on, with all the challenges, I think you went getting first a small job, then a better job, then a bit better job. And for me, it had nothing to do with your sexuality. I was a parent who wanted their child to be economically self-sufficient. So in that essence, I cannot say it changed at all. But now, when it came to relationships, this was, I think, one thing that people should understand is that coming out, and I constantly repeat this to people who are coming into activism for LGBTIQ persons, and people who are lobbying for your rights, and people who are allies and other stakeholders. When an LGBTIQ person comes out, the coming out does not just involve the person. It also involves the family.
Yes.
You have your own coming out to do, and we have our own coming out to do. I have my family to face. I have my friends to face. I have the church people to face. I have my community, my immediate community to face. And it's a gradual process. And while this coming out is going on, there's also your growing, which is not stagnant. It doesn't mean that whether you're straight or gay, life is not different. It's only made different by biases. So at every point, I wanted growth for you. Financial, personal, and social growth. I wanted you to have a friend who was, if it was a partner, to have somebody who was trustworthy, who was loyal, who made you happy. And you can notice that even through your earlier relationships, once you came out, my ardent desire was whoever you are with, I was very adamant. If you are not happy, I'm not going to tolerate it, and I'm going to come into it and make things right and interfere as a parent.
Yes.
The way I would do if you are heterosexual, if you are with a man. If I see that relationship is not going well, my interest in my child is paramount. I want your happiness, because I know your happiness is detrimental to you being successful in your life. So I can say that as the years went on, as you got better jobs, as you became stronger, as your relationships became stronger also, because I too had gone through different relationships, and I had learned through my own experience that when you're in a relationship that makes you happy, you're able to build yourself. So I can say that though there were challenges, financial challenges, the more you became confident in yourself, and I think that was also a lot due to the fact that we had love in the family, that we stood together, that we faced everything together. And then one big boost that came was me talking to the next most powerful person in my life after Guku's passing, who was Mbae, and who told me to leave my fears aside and be thankful that I have a good, healthy, loving child. And for me, getting acceptance of the one woman who had now become my beacon after the passing away of my mom, just made it fly for me. So it was, life was at normal. We were working the new normal, and in the new normal, I wanted you to be as strong as a person in yourself as possible, so that you could succeed in life. I sat down and realized college was not possible because we did not have the finances, but college did not mean getting a job. So I was adamant that you had to get employment. You had to abide by discipline in employment, and I was not wavering about that. I don't think at that point I was bothered about whether your sexuality is this or this. I was just a parent who wanted things to go right for you, and you had to get a job. This is Kenya, to survive. If you are staying alone, I did not want to hear that you're relying on somebody, because I knew what life was. I wanted you to make a life for yourself, because you had brothers coming up who are looking up to you, and I knew that it's important for you to get into life being an independent and self-reliant person for the benefit of your life in future, not so that you can please somebody or please me or help me with this and that. My mind was not even about you helping me or helping your brothers or anything, but to get a stable foundation for yourself. And I'm glad it went well. So at any point right now, I don't think about your sexuality first. I think I'm beyond that, and I thank God. We are at a level where I look at your personal development. How are you going on? How happy is Gigi? Is she making good? That's why I can call it interfering, but that's why I interfere so much in your life. Is she saving up enough? How is her job? Is she happy at her job? If you're not happy, you know, I'll always step in and tell you, if it's giving you this much of a headache, step out of it. Because I've realized that in life where we've got to right now, and what I'd advise any other young person, whether straight or gay, is that your happiness matters more than anything else. It's not about how glitzy your job is. It's not about how much money those people are offering. It's how much are they respecting you as a person. How much are they worried about your personal input and your personal joy out of what you're doing. So I can say, yeah, my views keep changing, but they keep changing on the level of a parent and a child, not the mother of a lesbian woman, no.
Which is actually a very interesting, it's just very interesting to hear you say this, because parents of other LGBTIQ persons want, yes, the same for their children, but it's not coming from that point of you just want your child to be happy, self-reliant, not having to depend on people, because that comes with other vulnerabilities. For them, it's usually you either have money or we don't accept you. So it's just beautiful to hear for you, even your hopes and aspirations for me are not even tied to my sexual orientation, but to me as a human being who is your child, period. Sio maneno ya sijuo, which is something that is very, very beautiful, ma'am. Well, a lot has changed. My aspirations for myself, they continue changing, they continue shifting. In fact, I think every year I have new aspirations for myself. In the beginning, it was just about having economic security, not caring about things such as my mental health, where I'm working, for example, not thinking about my security either within work or without of work. So all these things have changed my aspirations and hopes for myself. One is I do actually want to go back to school. That is something that I have been actively thinking about, because I have been able to amass a lot of experience in the kind of work that I am doing. I have been able to get recognition, to get attention, to be, have access to various spaces and various avenues of growth. That one, my networks, all those are things that I had aspired to and I was able to achieve, but now I feel like I want more. I want more for myself. I'm thinking, one, I'm leaning towards having a family soon. I hit 30 this year, so I'm leaning on having either through adoption or just through a natural process, or going back to school, advancing my career, because that is something I've also been actively thinking about. I love the activism that I do for the LGBTIQ community in Kenya, and that has basically been my foundational block of to get me to where I am. But I feel like now I want to even grow more. I want to focus, for example, on rights of women. For example, like I do not, a lot of my life aspirations have been centered around my sexuality, and I want to move away from that. I want to move away from thinking that my sexuality should be center to the decisions that I make about my personal growth. So yeah, they have changed.
Sorry for laughing, but it's universally known.
So
Excuse me.
literally our home is a sanctuary for queer persons, LGBTIQ persons. If there's something that has been made very clear to me by the community I come from, is that this is not your mother. This is our mother. So, so people, my mother. So I actually honestly don't have to convince anyone about anything. Your own work speaks for you. Your acceptance of me speaks for you. Your activism online and offline speaks for you. Like, sometimes I'm not even a part of many of the relationships you have with LGBTIQ persons, because people just are drawn to you and come to you directly. So for me, even the ones that I bring to the house are the ones who are like, "Ay, Gigi, Lakini, when are we going to your home?" It is usually coming from them asking, "Can we go and see Mama Gigi? How is Mama Gigi? How is our mother? What is the..." So it's, that one is just very self-explanatory. It's, we can't, my gosh, your work speaks for itself, and you're just generally loved within the LGBTIQ community because you have created that safe space for them.
I think to talk to what she said, earlier on when I first entered the space of doing activism, at that point I could not even call it activism. I was just presenting myself in their spaces as a parent who was willing to listen and to embrace people who are rejected back home. And that's when I was starting to realize that unlike our family, many of the people did not have a place to call family, did not have a person to call mother. Even if they have mothers, they did not have people to call brother, father, sister. And I cannot say I did it out of activism. I did it as a parent. I would go to forums, listen to people talking, and I'd be like, what? When I heard stories of people coming out and saying, my father is a bishop, my mother is a single, I've been brought up by a single parent like you, it's just me and my mother, she doesn't expect me, she doesn't want to see me in her house. I'd hear stories from people about how their education was suddenly paused with condition if you don't turn away from this. And I think for me it came as a shock. I knew we have homophobia in the country, but I had not come face to face with it on a family level and the realities of it. And as time went on, I think when I went to forums about, because I was also learning, like I said, the coming out for me to fully, the full coming out was helped and instigated a lot by a lot of seminars I went to, forums I went to where there were live discussions of people giving them my stories. And I went into total shock at how much Kenyans put on a face. When I heard from people whose parents are people I know of, people I know, people I can relate to, and they'd tell me how they cannot sit at the same table and the kind of abuses they'd be able to get. People who'd tell me how their siblings cannot face them when they meet on the street. Others how they have neighbors coming into their houses and being permitted to talk trash about them and to castigate them. People being rejected in church and told unbelievable things by the clergy and fellow church members. And when I got the personal stories of a lot of members of the LGBTIQ community, it changed me. It touched me as a parent, and it touched me as a Christian. Because I started asking myself, what is Christianity about if a lot of these people that I'm talking to are from Christian homes, and they are getting this kind of homophobic attacks and abuse from their own families? And I'd ask them, how are your families after you were excommunicated and everything? And they'd say, oh, fine. Oh, my father is the most revered clergy person in that place. My mother is the head of that church women's group. My brother is outstanding, this outstanding so-and-so person in society and all. And I was like, we have so many normal families who are dysfunctional in this country by virtue of the fact that one of them is of a different sexuality, and they treat that person like a leper. And they stand up in society and say, we are so-and-so family, we are the who's and the who's. And they can stand up and say, we don't like this vice in society, we are talking about corruption, we are talking about this, we are talking about this. And they don't look at the log in their own eye. They are talking about the splinter in other people's eye. And this is something that this gave me strength in my activism, in my lobbying for equal rights. Because, and my activism is special because I speak from the point of view of a parent, of a family person. So for me, it's about my conscience, and that's why I don't even question from a very early stage on. When I went to functions, when I went to debates, when I went to any space which had community members, I made it before I knew what activism was, and before I involved myself in that capacity. I just made it open that if your mother had rejected you, was not talking to you, your father, if your family was not in communication with you, if you are feeling alone, I was available. Not as Gigi's mom, but as a parent who cares and who listens. And from that capacity, it has grown to a level where some of the people have asked me, can you talk to my mother? Mainly, I don't talk to men because we are at a different thinking for very many reasons. But I reach out to mothers because I know from what point I can converse with them. And I can say that over the years, in the past, since 2017, for about 9 years now, there's been a change. It starts, every little step is a celebration for me. If there's one brother who's accepting in a family that has not spoken to you for 5 years, I'm elated. If your mother tells you come for Christmas, lakini usikuje kukaa sana, I tell that person, celebrate. It's a step. When a mother calls me and talks to me and tells me, you know how my child disappointed me, I wanted them to go on for this college and to do this, and I ask them, did your child change from being whom they are because of whom they love? And you can see the inhibitions. And when I dig deeper, when I meet with the parent face to face, the fears of many mothers, we are wakristo, or in inverted commas. The fear is not what my child is. It's my fear of what is my standing going to be in my cocoon of church friends.
What will
They'll be hitting one another. Mama yule mtoto funny. Ule mtoto wake ako hivi na hivi. So the biggest worry among most parents is not, they prefer to shun their child than to have to tell their friends, mi nimekubali mtoto wangu. Yet some of those friends they are with, their children are involved in mega billion corruption cases. Their children, some of them are in jail for one reason or another. Some of their children are involved in social crimes that are worse at a different level. But for them, because society has deemed LGBTIQ persons to be greater sinners, they'd rather stay the holy person and just give excuses. Alienda ngambo, hapana anafanya kazi Kericho siku hizi. Si mwanangi, hapana tulikuwa sana, unajua tu wa teenagers vile wako. And I'm calling out, personally to parents who need to look into themselves and ask, what are you doing to these children? That's why we are having high suicide cases. That's why we are having a lot of depression. That's why mental awareness is now being brought up. A bigger percentage of the people who are suffering from mental health issues are marginalized persons. And members of the LGBTIQ community fall into this. So what are we doing to ourselves as a nation? You're ignoring all the good things they are doing. They're in healthcare. They are in education. They are in community development. But all this, immediately it has a gay label to it, is seen as useless, as influencing, negatively influencing, as a disorder in society. So we must rethink. But until that time happens, or while we are waiting for that to happen, my home is a welcome haven to any person who feels like they are not wanted anywhere else. And many times they don't even have to come to Gigi. They can just call me, Mom, or we have this and this. And more frequently now I have friends calling me up and saying, we have a child who wants to commit suicide. We have a child who's been chased by their mother. We have a child who wants to run away. And sometimes it is young teenage children, but who've just realized their sexuality, and somebody in the community has realized. When it's up country, security, I have to invoke Gigi and a lot of other players to provide security for this child. A child. We are talking of battling of pedophilia in society, of child kidnappings. Why are these children different when they become labeled as LGBTIQ? That's my question as a parent. But since you can't save the whole community, the whole country, the 2-3 that I can help, who can reach out to my love and find accommodation in my home, I'm happy with that. They're welcome.
Parents, most of the parents, first of all, there's lack of information. Most of the parents do not, the media in this country does not allow conversations around LGBTI to be openly heard, and if they're openly heard, they're conducted in a very sort of homophobic, in a very homophobic sort of setting, or just focusing on something that it should not even be focused on during that line of questioning. So what can parents do, regardless of their religion, regardless of their financial background, regardless of their state, their stakes in society, their positions in society? What can parents do better to accept their children?
Okay, taking myself as an example, change comes with knowledge and with education. We are what we think because of our societal influence. So majority of the parents and society, let me not just say parents, because parents, we are varying ages. There are 20-year-old parents, there are 60-year-old parents. But for the longest time, among the majority of people, except a few well-traveled, well-read people, we know gay people, to generally say gay people, as sinners, immoral people who are just out to there's all this deviance. These social evil connotations that are associated with gay people. Now, one thing that would help a lot of parents in being able to be more accommodating and accepting is having education about the status of being soji, which is being of a different sexual orientation and gender identity expression. Because being gay is many things. And the confusion and the lack of knowledge is what causes a lot of parents fear, because they see a gay person in their mind. They see this homosexual man with rings and with open shirt and all this. But there has to be an understanding and an education to the general public that, first of all, it is not about sex. They are the same way we have heterosexual people who steer away out of their personal will from sexual ventures with people they love. It's the same thing with community members. It's not about sex, it's about feelings. Sometimes it's not even just about feelings, it's about expression. There are people who just want to express as a certain gender, and it has nothing to do with whom they love. There are people who just want to love the person of the opposite sex or the same sex. They don't want to have sex with them. There are people, in fact, who don't even want to love anybody. They are asexual, and they are fine with that. And I think for me, what primarily a lot of parents have to understand is that what defines your child should not be whom they love and what gender they love, whether there's their own gender or the opposite gender, but who they turn out to be in society. One realization that has not been made very public and very loud in Kenya because of the homophobic tendencies and the famous bill we have, the law we have, the section 162, is that people don't understand that there are many gay people in our society who are highly successful, who are highly philanthropic, who are great moral boosters to a lot
religious also,
who are highly religious, who are great leaders in community, not well sung about or rich people, but who are small community people but doing a lot. Because you see, the concept that people have is that if I look at so and so, that is a gay person because he's dressed like this, he looks like this, or she looks like this, she has... No. The same way you don't know evil people from good people, the same way you don't know a good Christian from a bad Christian, a good Muslim from a bad Muslim, is the same way you do not know that this person is LGBTIQ or this person is heterosexual. Once parents understand that, then we need, as a nation and as a community, to understand that what we should be looking at, what we should be looking out for is the good societal norms that should be ingrained in every child and person. Is this person an honest person? Is this person a law-abiding person? Is this person interested in developing themselves for the good of the community? Is this person interested in developing the environment? Not about who sleeps with who. If we start calling out people on immoral topics, we need to start looking first of all out for our generation of men who are totally unscrupulous. Look at the broken homes we have in these families because of men being irresponsible. Look at child pregnancy by adult men. Look at children dropping out of school because of wealth-related issues, primarily because of men misusing and abusing family wealth and money. Look at pedophiles. You rarely hear about women raping small boys. It's predominantly a male crime-driven society that we are in. But again, at the same time, we are the men dominate in this society so much. So calling out the crimes and the vices that are done by men is normally a bit suppressed. If he's a very big man in society who has raped a girl, he can get away with it. But when it comes to the sexuality of young people, they have not gone and influenced anybody. They have not gone and prostituted themselves. They have just loved somebody differently. We are talking about entering the bedroom scene, and we are not, but only when it comes to a marginalized group of persons. That for me is discriminatory. So we need to set, for parents to come into more acceptance, we need to have an education about what are the good vices in society, what are the bad vices. How is being a gay person a vice? To what extent does it go against society? How is it possible? Parents must learn how it is possible to be of a different sexual orientation and be a law-abiding person and be a good person in society and a productive person in society. When people have this paradigm shift of knowing the difference between a person's goodness based on their sexuality or a person's goodness based on the moral upstanding of society, there's a shift somewhere. If they can tell the difference between that, then we can more readily wipe out homophobia, which is largely led by our it's assumptions and judgmental attitudes. If we can drop a lot of those judgmental attitudes and base ourselves on facts and realities, then we'd have more acceptance in society. But it starts with education. You must be more educated about who is an LGBTIQ person. Are they made up by their sexuality or their being as a social being, as a human being? They have, if you put two people together on a standing, if you put my Gigi and another girl of the same age, of different sexuality, do you like what are your views about nature? What are your views about nature? What do you think about people getting parental guidance? What do you think? What do you think about corruption in this country? What do you think? Judge them as human beings, not based on their sexuality. Because if we go into bedroom matters, then there are a lot more questions.
So, Mom, previously you've just talked about, the religious aspect that is usually more often used as the tool of hate for LGBTIQ persons, which should not be the case, because religion is basically a guiding tool for the social fabric that we live in. So regardless of which religion it is, I do know that you are a woman of faith. That is something you have even raised us in a very faith-based, strongly faith-based background. So how do you reconcile that, your faith, and the fact that this faith is also used sometimes to hurt LGBTIQ people? How do you balance those?
It's difficult, and talking from a point of enlightenment, which is not open to many people out there, is that I have come to learn that I have come to be able to question and to see some faults in my religion as a Christian. I know for a fact that the same way the Bible was used to exemplify slave trades and slavery and persecution of martyrs in the fact that they were not abiding to Christianity, is the same way it is being used as a persecution tool for LGBTIQ persons. The Clover passages, the famous passages in the Bible that are used to put claim to the fact that being gay is a sin, are all man-created. We are told that the Bible is a word of God. I cannot talk for the Quran, I cannot talk for other religions. But it's difficult for me. I know my standpoint is highly criticized in church by some people, but that's something that what the Bible says, you are either gray or you're black or white. I choose to be black or white. I will not change my standing. I do not view homosexuality in itself as a sin. I know there are worse vices in the Bible. This is not one of the vices. This is it's a person's being. You cannot just be labeled something and then that is a crime. The vices that we are told in the Bible are very specific, and one of the commandments is not that do not have sex with the same-sex person. But the biggest commandment in the Bible is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And out of a recent understanding, I have come to learn that the Bible was specifically changed to include the word homosexuality so as to change the the perspective of who homosexuals are, and to deem it as a crime. And it is out of this change that a lot of the laws, including our own British version of the adapted
Penal
version
code.
of the penal code, was derived from that. So the fact that the authors and the translators of the Bible accepted that the word that was used, homosexual and homosexuality, was input by people with deliberate intention to make homosexuality a sin. And they failed to remove it. I think only one version so far has been removed. Already going back translates to the fact that homosexuality changed from being a crime and became a sin by man's making. And we're in a homophobic society. A lot of my perspective of how my acceptance is varies just the same way it does with heterosexual people. There are people who I don't want to associate with, not because they are gay, but because of the way they behave. Just the same way as I look at some heterosexual people and I don't want to associate with them, I don't like them. Even if I use the word hate, I'll say I hate them. Not because of their sexuality, but because of who they portray as human beings, vis-a-vis what I like to see or I like to associate with. And that's a personal prerogative.
Yes.
But what I can say is that I have come as a Christian to know that there are clobber passages in the Bible that are specifically cut out to clobber LGBTIQ persons, the same way before that, and in many instances they've been verses that are picked out to clobber women, show how inferior they should be, to show the legality and the legitimacy of how women should be below men, to show how children should not be listened to, although we're in an era where everybody's voice matters, to show how lepers should not be accepted. You can pick up the Bible, but it is how you interpret it that matters. So me as a Christian, standing as Josephine, I know what my Bible says. The biggest message I pick is love. I do not accept the clobber passages for what I think they are, as man-made clobber passages. And I know a lot of the church still stands by the clobber passages, but thankfully, and I thank God for this, activism and lobbyism have led to a space where a lot of churches have come to accept inclusivity. I work with a lot of church leaders. And currently, even on an international level, the mainstream churches, the Catholic, Presbyterian, Baptist, are breaking into segments because we have groups of church leaders who are for inclusivity and those who still maintain that they must maintain the clobber passages as they are.
Growing up, church was primary. Whether
compulsory, not optional.
Not optional. Whether it was with grandma, whether it was with you, whichever place we were at any given point, whether we are with cousins, whether we're in Ushago, church was very paramount. And it's something that I have actually even come to make peace with. Like, faith has been a building block for me for many things in my life, many decisions in my life. But also faith was a point of trauma for me.
Okay.
Right? So, and this was mostly not from you, but from other family members, other persons within the community, other people that I used to know. Faith was always used as that stick to whip me. So I gave faith a second, and I heightened my relationship with spirituality. So for me, it is about it's solace for me comes from people I love, comes from nature, comes from introspectiveness and extrospectiveness.
Those ones.
Yes. How I relate with things that make me feel sad, things that make me feel unhappy, and just really critically being aware of myself as a human being and as a person and within what space I'm occupying. Faith is not something that I have beef with, but it is something for me that I prefer not to engage in, but still be able to uphold the messages of love and togetherness and community and support and just being kind to people, being good to people without having to be specifically religious. So for me, it's more spiritual than it's more spirituality for me than it is religion. So mom, because I'm of course your favorite daughter, what are the things that you love most about me now, where I am as Gigi?
As a parent, let me take it back to when you were born. So here I was, newly married, young. I entered this home. I'm pregnant. I had had a miscarriage shortly before you were born. So I wanted and hoped for a boy, because we were brought up to know that boys, ukizaa kijana now is when you're
Umefika.
yeah, you have good marks. So when I got the girl, you know, going into giving birth, I was told first you're told the sex of the child when they are those days. It was not high tech like this. You go for scans. Umebeba mimba umezaa. When you're being brought the child,
Ndio naambiwa.
ni kasichana. So I was like, for a minute, because everything happens like so fast. I was like, oh no, a boy. Then I was given the child. It even slipped, you know, you even forget, when you hear women saying they forget. I forgot the pain I had. I forgot everything I was being told. I don't know, you're going to have to be... I wasn't listening to all
anyone.
that. I was like, just looking at this. This is mine. For me, you are like a toy plus a gift plus... you know, many things together. And then I was so in love with your dad. So I was like, this is a little him, my own little him. And I think I was, there's liking a child and there's being in love with a child. So for me, the minute I held you in my arms, and through the stages when you are a baby, there was so much happening in my life, but I think my focus just changed. Everything else was noise. I had this baby and everybody used to tell me, my goodness, you love your child so much. Because I think for me, it was, I had had disappointments in life. I had had so many things, but this was something I could shape according to my personal desires. And I put all my love into you. And I can say as the years changed, as the years went by, nothing much changed. I got other children, you are still my Gigi. Right now, you're still my Gigi. Life happens, that's, I think it's just the maturity of the love. The thing I can say I love you, I love the most about you is the fact that nobody can change that you are mine. And to a very large extent, I can shift, I can mold your thinking by willpower, by sheer effort, and to a good point, and that pleases me the most. You're like a piece of clay which is mine, which is a piece of me and is individual at the same time. And what I like is that the love we share is that you're my piece of clay, but you're a part of me. So I can mold you, and every time I mold you into something, I mold a piece of it is a copycat of what I'm doing. You. And that's the thing I love most about you, that you're a piece of me and I'm a piece of you. I don't know how else to explain it. And as you grow, I grow. When you're better, I'm better. Your moods reflect my moods. When you're unhappy, a bit of me becomes unhappy. When you're very happy, I brighten up. So it's like a mirror molding image. That's all I can explain. If there's any relationship of God and man, it's in I'm reliving it in my own little yeah. So what apart from just how can you describe?
What I feel for you is the sustenance to my life. It's basically the fuel to my life. It is what wakes me up in the morning. It is what enables me to even just rest in the night, knowing that I have a general who is always holding my back, a person who is always sort of like the rotor on the motor on a boat. You're constantly guiding, you're constantly shifting, you're constantly just there right beside me, holding my hand. And the other thing I absolutely love is your happiness right now at the point you are in your life. I usually tell people, the apple does not fall far. I am definitely my mother's child. And seeing you happy is something that gives me goosebumps just to even think about, because when you're happy, all of us are happy, and when all of us are happy, there is nothing we cannot do. You have been able to create such a solid family unit that is driven by love, support of each other, companionship, championship of each other. But it's like an airtight bag. Hakuna, nothing can ever come between kutenganisha. The love I have for you, for Levi, the three of us, it is tight-knit. And your wisdom, Mom, the woman that you are is the woman I aspire to be. Because your strength, your wisdom are things that cannot even be put into measurement. Your foresight and your hindsight, these are things that is why I'm always constantly seeking for advice from you, because I want to get everything. I will take all those so that even me, the day I have a daughter, I will be the perfect mother, just the way I had a perfect mother. And Mom, to the ends of this world, no one can rival the love I have for you. No one.
Let me
Absolutely. No, I refuse.
My baby.
You can
Okay.
Oh my gosh, right now actually, I've not been listening to music by the way of late. I have been doing mostly reading. I've been doing a lot of reading.
What have you read lately?
Actually, it is funny because we are at a certain place, but I am reading a book that is actually called Ikigai. That's why when we were walking in,
you are telling me.
and it's basically about inner peace, you know, self-recollection. It's just basically about bringing yourself in sync with everything that is around you, with nature, with what. So when we were walking in, I was like, this is just fit.
Okay.
This is just fit. But right now, currently, music not so much. Oh, I'm writing poetry again. I started writing poetry again, so I'm very happy about that. I had not been able to
mother
write.
Is a poet.
I had not been able to write for a while, which just
good.
showed that even my mental health space was at a weird place. But now I'm able to write again, and I'm at least churning out even 2 per day. And I feel so much fun. And it's not dark poetry like I used to do before. It's actually happy
It's a reflection
things.
of what's happening
It's
in
a
life.
reflection of how happy I am and where I am, and I am so far loving it.
And you see how much in sync we are. It's like karma. Even beyond our physical, I'm at that point where I'm writing my book.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm reliving our lives, and this is because, you know, for years I've always said, yeah, and you've always all told me, Mom, you should write about
Write
your
a
life. You
book.
should write about your life. And what I can say is that my journey in writing this book has brought me so many mixed reactions, sometimes of great joy because of the joyous times, sometimes of great anger because of some of the and well, it's a book, I have to bring it out.
Yes.
But I must say the only difference is that, you know, as you can't do those Western things that you bear it all, because there are people you're going to crucify, there are people who are going to hate you for, how could you write that?
Yes,
So, as much as I'm bearing it all, our bearing it all has, we Africans.
To limits.
Twingine tu naweka nilikosea, but if you dared to say them koseo.
But then, which is something
Yeah.
so amazing. Mommy, do you know, you've always raised us as artists.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking Levi is actually an artist.
Yeah,
He does a lot of drawing, he does a lot of crafts, he does...
Even Len was a lot into
Yes,
art.
like all of...
Yeah.
Since we were young, he used to
Yeah.
constantly bring for us books, reading material. My mother is the one who taught me about reading. This woman. now she knew that she has a daughter who is lesbian. She went and researched on safe ways to have sex for LGBTIQ people.
No, it's just being open-minded, keeping it safe.
Sharing.
Yes,
sharing.
and she used to buy me
And-
LGBTIQ poetry, LGBTIQ
And I think that also helped
books.
me, because like I'm saying, the coming out is not only for the person,
Yes.
but also for the family. So the more understanding I have, then the more compassion, and the more, you know, to know all is to understand all. So when you have little knowledge about what it is you're bickering about, or you're apprehensive about, or fearful about, the less knowledge you have, the more you'll have of that you'll have. So yeah, getting all that was also my own way of learning. But when it comes to music, let me see. I think once in a while they'll play a song in the house and I'll be like, and they are really into it. They are even discussing the musician. And like, we need a bigger house. But once in a while I'll listen to something and I'll be like, you told me that's
nice.
what? Hip hop? Or what is it called? It's actually, but once in a while. I don't like current music. I'm more into, they can attest to this. I think by force you listen to country music all your life.
Oh my gosh. Woo,
And I still have my tapes.
There
Yeah.
are certain two
Yeah,
tapes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Brian Adams and ABBA
Yeah,
cassettes.
yeah, yeah,
Those were the national anthems
I like cool
home.
music. I like rumba. I like a lot of Christian music. I like Central Africa, Uganda, Rwanda, Congo. And Tanzania. Kenyan is last, but their gospel is, even if it's in vernacular, it's a bit different from our gospel. Our gospel, Kenyan gospel, I like Old Kamba gospel, Machakos Town Choir. Sorry, I'm not being tribalistic, but the gospel, that used to be Kenya's hits. They were producing and that's a kind of gospel I like. I think even now in church, the music is so changed, even in mass. The kind of songs we sing, we are this close to getting hip hop in church. And I don't like it. I like cool, calm, collected music. But I love reggae. But I'm a lover of instrumental music. When I do piping in my house, that's the only music that's going to be there. And I love live shows.
Yes.
I'm lucky to say that I've been to a live Lucky Dube
She actually
show
took us to watch Lucky Dube
when we lived in Uganda. And that's where I learned how the background systems go, the cameras, the sound system, and it was an experience.
That was a magical experience.
Yeah. So yeah, I like live music much more. If I go out, I can go to a rumba only disco and I'll be fine. Yeah, but not to say that in the younger days we did not go to groove. I was a dancer par excellence. Unfortunately, I married a man who had 2 left feet, so he'd just take me and let me dance with everybody and just the gentleman just
Slowly.
yeah, but I love music. For me, music is an expression that I love traditional dancing. Uganda has phenomenal traditional dancers. Local dance in Kenya is not what it used to be in the 70s.
Back then.
Right now, you know, is Sukuti and you know, but there's another local traditional dance level that nowadays it's being commercialized so much because most of the people doing it are young. What we watched when we were younger was different. Yeah, so it's everything is being watered down.
Yeah.
But the really local is nice. For example, Maasai, a lot of people don't know that the Maasais are vocalists. They just think they jump and jump and jump.
Yeah.
But if you catch them, the men have
Yeah.
the men have high voices and they can sing very well. The Meru have a traditional dance that is as acrobatic as the Kamba, but they rarely do it. The Kamba have a traditional dance that is gentle and has singing, and the men sing a lot, but it's rarely shown. And then in Uganda, for example, the Bachiga, they're the ones who started rap, and the Kamba have a rap like that. They can do a monologue of one man speaking, like when you go to a Kwanjura, which is the introduction of the girl. The family of the girl sits there, and the family of the man, and then they call an expert. And he just watches, and then he's given hints. The grandfather used to be a warrior. The mother is very good at knitting. The auntie has this, and he's going to sing. He's just doing it as a talk. Oh, I have heard that the man of this house is a very great warrior, and we heard that the woman was very good at sewing, and we hear that, and he's just talking for a whole hour non-stop. And it's something that you cannot put into words. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We also have that in Kamba, but I've only had it in the old record players, the turnaround table. So there's a lot to culture, and I'm glad I lived in the era when we still had that. So I'm documenting all that, and I'm hoping that if we share it, people can bring back some of those. A lot of families have record players. They don't play those records. They've not been put into soft copies. If we can have all that, then it brightens and it livens even the cultural interest of people. But yeah, I like music. Yeah.